Breaking news from around your world on this Wednesday, June 5th, 2019. I'm Larry Rice. A new cybersecurity report indicates the Russian effort to interfere in the 2016 U.S. presidential election was better planned and more advanced than previously believed. Software developer Symantec conducted the study and examined nearly 10 million Twitter posts made by Russia's Internet Research Agency that sought to influence the vote. The U.S. intelligence community and numerous experts have said the firm, often referred to as a troll factory, made great efforts to favor then-candidate Donald Trump during the 2016 campaign. The analysis concluded that the Russian efforts sought to stoke tensions across the U.S. political spectrum and listed some of the most popular Russian-linked accounts, which posted about various issues, including the Black Lives Matter movement, gun rights, and feminism. Gillian Cleary, a senior software engineer at Symantec, said the campaign's sophistication suggests it was run by higher Russian powers. It was a highly professional campaign, Cleary said in the report. The sheer scale and impact of this propaganda campaign is obviously of deep concern to voters in all countries who may fear a repeat of what happened. The report said accounts went beyond internet fodder and inspired some to attend rallies promoted by the Russian accounts. One account promoted 47 rallies for Republican nominee Trump. Queen Elizabeth II joined British Prime Minister Theresa May, other world leaders, and World War II veterans on the south coast of England Wednesday to honor Allied soldiers who risked and gave their lives in large numbers 75 years ago for the D-Day invasion that helped liberate Europe from Nazi Germany. D-Day saw more than 150,000 Allied troops land on the beaches of Normandy in northwest France on June 6, 1944, carried by more than 7,000 boats. The Battle of Normandy, codenamed Operation Overlord, was a turning point in the war and helped bring about Nazi Germany's defeat in May of 1945. The Queen, who served as an Army mechanic during the war, said that when she attended a 60th anniversary commemoration of D-Day 15 years ago, many thought it might be the last such event. But the wartime generation, my generation, is resilient, she said, striking an unusually personal note. The monarch said, "The heroism, courage, and sacrifice of those who lost their lives will never be forgotten. It is with humility and pleasure on behalf of the entire country, indeed the whole free world, that I say to you all, thank you." President Trump read from a prayer delivered by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt on national radio on June 6, 1944, saying, "Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity." There were more than 300 World War II veterans attending, and the event also included a flyby of vintage and modern military aircraft. The leader of the country that was the enemy in 1944, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, also attended, a symbol of Europe's post-war reconciliation and transformation. Nearly 1 year after a historic Singapore summit between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, the Asian nation advised the United States to change its approach in nuclear negotiations and warned that its patience has limits. In a statement carried by state-run Korean Central News Agency, a spokesman for North Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Tuesday night, the U.S. would be well advised to change its current method of calculation. There is a limit to our patience. The Singapore Joint Declaration called for establishing new relations between the two countries and building a peace regime on the Korean Peninsula. It also said that North Korea would work toward a complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, but did not produce a timeline or details on implementation. The North Korean spokesman accused the U.S. of not playing its part in carrying out the agreement, insisting on our unilateral surrender of nuclear weapons. Pyongyang has been looking for a gradual approach in negotiations, seeking relief of international sanctions in exchange for steps it's already taken, such as dismantling a nuclear testing site, while Washington has continued to hold out for complete denuclearization before any concessions are made. A second Trump-Kim summit, held in February in Hanoi, concluded abruptly without an agreement, and in recent weeks North Korea has sought to increase pressure on the U.S. to change its stance. Trump has said that he is open to meeting with Kim again and tweeted last month that he believed a deal would still go forward. The United States believes Russia may be more amenable than in the past to addressing U.S. and Israeli concerns about Iran's influence, including in Syria, when national security leaders meet in Jerusalem this month. The United States announced last week that John Bolton, White House National Security Advisor, would meet his Israeli and Russian counterparts in Jerusalem in June. But it provided no details about the meeting, which comes at a moment of heightened tension between Washington and Tehran. A senior Trump administration official who spoke to reporters on condition of anonymity described the meeting as an unprecedented diplomatic opportunity for discussions on Syria, where all three countries have been involved militarily. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said last month during a visit by his Iranian counterpart to Moscow that U.S. calls to curb Iran's influence in Syria and the broader Mideast were unrealistic. Asked what then gave the Trump administration optimism about the prospects now, the official said Russia's public participation in a meeting of this kind in Israel, Iran's arch foe, was significant. Beyond Bolton, Israeli National Security Advisor Meir Ben-Shabbat and Nikolai Patrushev, Secretary of the Russian Security Council, are expected to take part in the meeting, according to the Trump administration. Mexican officials will seek to persuade the White House in talks hosted by Vice President Mike Pence on Wednesday that their government has done enough to stem immigration and avoid looming tariffs. U.S. authorities at the southern border with Mexico have become overwhelmed in recent years by an increase in mostly Central American families and unaccompanied minors seeking asylum to escape violence back home. Frustrated by the lack of progress on a signature issue from his 2016 presidential campaign, Donald Trump unexpectedly announced last week that he would impose 5% tariffs on all imports from Mexico, rising to as much as 25% later in the year unless Mexico took a harder line. Trump said that it was likely that the first wave of tariffs set for next week would go ahead. He has faced significant pushback from his own party, the Republicans, however, with many lawmakers concerned about the effect that such tariffs would have on cross-border trade and U.S. businesses and consumers. At a lengthy closed-door lunch meeting at the Capitol, senators took turns warning Trump officials there could be trouble if the GOP-held Senate votes on disapproving the tariffs. The GOP opposition is grounded in fears over what Trump's tariffs would do to the livelihoods of ordinary Americans. Senators worry they would spike U.S. consumers' costs, harm the economy, and imperil a major pending U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade deal. Pence is the Trump administration's point person for getting Congress to approve the new deal, known as USMCA, which he has pledged will happen this year. The House passed a bill on Tuesday providing a path to citizenship to people protected under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. The legislation, known as the Dream and Promise Act of 2019, passed by a vote of 237 to 187 and would provide undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children and protected under DACA, known as Dreamers, the opportunity to obtain citizenship by meeting certain requirements. Dreamers would be eligible to receive 10 years of conditional U.S. permanent residence if they were younger than 18 upon arriving in the United States, have lived in the country continuously for 4 years, and have an American high school diploma or GED. They must also pass a background check and not have committed any serious crimes. After completing at least 2 years of higher education or military service, or working for 3 years, they would receive permanent green cards. It allows temporary protected status recipients and Liberian immigrants under the Deferred Enforcement Departure to gain permanent residency. Lawmakers had previously drafted multiple bills seeking to provide clarity for the thousands of dreamers granted protection under the Obama administration since President Trump moved to end the DACA program in 2017, but none passed. One of the wealthiest communities in California has become the first city in the United States to ban the sale of tobacco products after councilors approved a new law that will take effect in 2021. The city of Beverly Hills passed the new law Tuesday, and while it doesn't bar smoking inside city limits, it prohibits any business from selling tobacco products beginning January 21st, 2021. The new ordinance exempts existing cigar lounges and will allow hotels to sell such products to guests. Councilors said they will consider hardship exemptions for businesses that can prove the law will create an undue burden and review the ban's impact on tourism in 3 years. The new law is the latest effort by the city to improve the health of those who live and work there. It already has a program that provides a smoking cessation program free of charge to Beverly Hills residents and workers. The city said it's also collecting information about the effects of smoking and secondhand smoke in Beverly Hills city limits. Beverly Hills also bans smoking in some public places. Some retailers argue a ban on sales will simply shift them to neighboring jurisdictions like Los Angeles and West Hollywood. The National Association of Tobacco Outlets said businesses that sell tobacco may see their income fall by as much as 45%. The bones of a newly identified species of dinosaur were discovered preserved in opal. The fossils, originally discovered back in the 1980s in an Australian opal field, have just been reclassified as a new species by a study published in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology. While some smaller fossils have been discovered in opal before, these specimens are the most complete opalized dinosaur skeleton in the world. The bones were found all together, which indicates that the 4 animals may have been part of a herd or a family. Paleontologists said the new species fills in a glaring gap in our understanding of duck-billed dinosaur evolution. And that's your update for this Wednesday, June 5th, 2019. I'm Larry Rice. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.